Good morning, everyone. This is Prim with Bitcoin Magazine. I'm here today in the Burj Khalifa, and next to me I have Roberto of Bolton Holding and Arina from also Bolton Holding doing an interview about their project. Welcome, Roberto.
Thank you.
Welcome, Arina.
Good morning.
So let's start off basically. Where are we? We are here in the Burj Khalifa at one of the highest offices in the world at the 143rd floor basically. So later on I'll be showing you some impressions with the spectacular view we have out of here. But let's start off talking about Bolton Holding. Roberto, Bolton Holding is actually a company which was formed in 1974 out of Switzerland. And has been for many, many years basically in business, doing trading of commodities, gold and diamonds, for example, but also mining business. Could you explain a little bit more about the holding?
Yes, like you said, we start on 1974. They start on 1974 with several business, different business on. Basically, the first company is a trust company based on Zug. I started with Bolton on 2014. I set up the holding, this headquarters here in Dubai. We use Dubai because it's very business friendly, in particular for international companies. And from there we start to take to use our connection in Africa and South America, a connection that we built in from 2010 from our UK company, and we started to trade more and using Dubai as a platform for trade in gold and mine and all the commodities that we can take it from Africa. And on 2017, we start to work on the blockchain concept and blockchain business.
All right. So, Arina, a question for you. As we look in the last couple of months, Bolton Holding made a lot of news basically coming out that $67 million has been raised for a corporate bond. Could you explain a little bit on that?
So we are not a typical blockchain company that likes to put out news every time they move a finger. We're quietly working away, focusing on our business, which is trading and mining, as Roberto explained. And as part of the process, as part of the capital formation exercise, we placed a corporate bond. We've done corporate bonds before as a company, traditionally. We either placed them publicly or we done private placement. This time when we placed a corporate bond, we decided to do it privately, and we decided to use blockchain as a technology to facilitate the transactions. Why did we decide to use that? First of all, we looked at the intermediaries that are involved when corporate bond is placed, and we also looked at the time. And we decided that blockchain technology is perfect for this type of a transaction. It removes intermediaries, it streamlines the process, and through the use of smart contracts, coupon on the corporate bond is paid immediately, as per the terms of the bond, into your wallet. And so you don't have to call, you don't have to chase, you don't have to run after people. Here's your coupon on your bond, it's in your wallet. As to my knowledge, we are the fourth corporate bond on a blockchain in the world. The first one was done by World Bank out of Australia. There was a municipality in the US that issued a corporate bond. Then there was another green bond that I actually don't remember who the issuer is. And just recently, Société Générale, the French banking giant, issued 100 million euros corporate bond on a blockchain as well. So we're in a good company. We're not doing something too crazy or too outrageous. And it has proven to be a successful placement, and we're now placing a second tranche. And that the second tranche is used to acquire additional mining interests, and we have a great pipeline of amazing assets. And the reason why we're doing it as a private placement, as a corporate bond placement, because mining industry has been shut out of the banking for quite a large time. Over 20 years, juniors or mid-caps in the oil and gas and mining industry were not able to take loans from the bank. So they are starved for capital. That's why we have amazing access with good capital, with good shareholders, with good investors on board. We have a great access to great assets all over the world.
Got it. So, Roberto, you've been basically throughout your life in this business, basically. So if you look at it, you're still doing kind of like the traditional business you're used to, but using modern technology to facilitate tokenization to attract different kind of investors, as Irina had just mentioned, because of the biggest reason that the banks, the corporate banks, are basically not willing to invest in such ventures. So how do you see this journey basically coming from a traditional company towards a digitized company, or looking ahead, being a hybrid form?
Yes, our idea is to build something, let's say, hybrid, like you said, to use all the style, all the finance, but and to combine the two with the new way to do finance with blockchain, to build more trust with the customers, not only to have more profits, because the people start this kind of to think about blockchain, looking at let's say Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency, only thinking about the profits, to make more profits and to do this kind of things. For me, the perfect way is to use the new technology like blockchain to build new relationship with the customers. This is how for me will be the future, no? And combine the two things, real economy and blockchain, is perfect, because you have something solid on the digital market. This is what we are doing.
Got it.
The days of two guys and a white paper and an ICO, when investors are expecting 1,000% return a day, those days are truly gone. And 90% of those projects were not very honest or honorable projects. So we have a real business with real returns, and we're using emerging technology to facilitate that. We're not promising 1,000,000% returns, because those returns are simply not sustainable and not achievable. We're promising real returns from a real business.
Got it.
And this is where I see the world will go.
All right. So there is also something exciting news you guys have to share. It's about a new issuance which is going to launch very soon. It's regarding a sukuk. Irina, could you explain on what is going to be?
So during our corporate bond placement, we got approached by our friends and business partners in the GCC region, and they specifically asked, why aren't you doing a sukuk? So that was a natural progression. So for our friends in the GCC region, for our friends also in Europe who want to have a sukuk investment opportunity, we are working on a sukuk placement, and that will be the first primary issued sukuk on the blockchain. And we have a lot to learn. We have learned a lot during the corporate bond placement, so we are actually in a very, very good shape to place the first ever primary issue of sukuk on blockchain.
Fantastic. So for the people who are not aware what a sukuk is basically a bond issuance again, but then which is going to be Sharia compliant. by the laws of Sharia. So this issuance, is it going to come before July, or is it going to be the second half of 2019? When can we expect it?
Let's not commit to any deadlines. You know how technology is. You go to a technology conference and the lights are out. So technology is as trustable as it can be. So we are thinking a September timeframe when GCC population is back from London. Everybody's enjoying nice weather now in Europe. So let's wait for September, October timeframe when our GCC residents are back.
Got it. So, all right, looking forward to that. And then a second news item which I would like to stop with is basically that, Roberto, a European government is basically looking into what Bolton Holding is doing, and you guys have basically been contacted to start off with a SME platform to issue corporate bonds, basically. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. Yes, I was approached from one group in Europe because they are very interested in what we are doing as a corporate bond and as a corporate bond platform. And just last week they asked me how we can cooperate on this kind of things, because the banks are not liquid and they are not giving credit. So this is using blockchain, using our platform is the perfect solution to open worldwide this kind of market. That is huge. So we are going to do this work.
And
so,
the SMEs in Europe are not the only SMEs who've been shut out of banking sector. SMEs worldwide, SMEs in the Middle East are having really tough time getting loans from the banks. I mean, you just need to talk to business owners on the street. So making this platform available in Europe first, having it properly licensed and tested and supported by the European government sends a very good signal to the rest of the governments. Well, maybe they should allow that to happen as well. And even if this particular government doesn't allow it, specifically sanction it, nothing stops this company to go and issue that out of Europe. So democratizing access to funding and democratizing access to investments for individuals. That's what blockchain has promised to deliver. So let's see how we can facilitate that.
Yes, a lot of investor comes from, let's say, India, Emirates or Saudi, and they have no too much trust on the bank system in Europe. So this can be done easily with blockchain technologies.
I got it. And just to give some insights and numbers, basically, if you look in Europe, for example, SME is about the small and medium-sized companies, basically is like 60% of GDP. It's really the oil to keep the countries, the economies moving. Yes. And if banks are really, putting a stop towards that, that's really catastrophic, basically, in the near future. So I think this initiative is really fantastic to open up something like this, because there's a real need right now in the market, especially where we look at how, European kind of ECB interest rates are declining at this point of time. It's really difficult, basically, for people to get into some kind of startup capital or capital in general to start their new ideas, their new business.
It's not about a startup, because we are talking about proper companies that they have probably 10, 20 years history, and that they cannot have access to the credit.
To the credit system, basically. Got it.
And they have income, they have cash flows, they want to expand, they want to enter additional markets, and they just can't.
Got it. So something which is also very exciting is about something about a digital bank. So, Arina, could you please elaborate a little bit on what are the plans with Bolton Holding and the digital bank?
Well, we are busy tokenizing everything we can get our hands on, right? And that's great. We've tokenized an asset, one of those assets, let's say, gold mine out of Australia. We've tokenized that asset. What are we going to do with the tokens? Put it in my pockets and be happy with myself? No, of course not. We need a financial services. We need a banking platform, an exchange platform, where these tokens can be sold, distributed, traded. And we've reached a pre-approval from UAE onshore authorities to open a Category 1 bank. It's going to be a digital bank. It has several licensing allowances to allow us to do what we're currently doing and even more. So that's quite exciting news. We're now complying with all the requirements in order to get a full banking license and a permission to open the door. And those requirements are quite onerous for a good reason, and we're now complying with those.
Fantastic. So that's also exciting news. If you just look in the region again, or for that matter in Europe, if you have a business, basically opening a bank account is really one of the most struggling kind of things you can really come over with. I mean, yes. You might be compliant and just having a normal kind of business, a brick and mortar kind of business, but at the same time to open a bank account seems to be like the golden grail. And without a bank, we cannot do anything nowadays. So
hopefully that will change very soon, because we're here to disrupt the financial services so to the point where peer-to-peer trading can happen without hundreds and hundreds of intermediaries in the middle. We're a little bit early in the process, which is fine. It takes time. Rome wasn't built in one day.
Absolutely.
So our financial services platform is not built in one day, but we have an operating exchange where the tokenized assets are now being listed and the trading is happening. So it's centralized now. We will move to decentralized. All our tokens are on public blockchain.
Got it.
We believe in that, because if you're doing a private blockchain, why not use a piece of paper and an Excel spreadsheet? So eventually we'll get to decentralized trading once all the regulatory things are sorted out and where we can provide protection for our investors. That's the main thing for us. We don't want to do anything too adventurous if we're not fully sure that it provides a protection for all our stakeholders.
Got it. So the last thing, Roberto, I would like to ask you is basically the passion for football, and I see a beautiful picture of you yourself and Pelé, who is one of the legendary football players of all time, who's still alive with us. Could you elaborate on your passion with football?
Yes, like my passion, football, yes, and cars. So in both sides we are doing two projects, very interesting project on both sides. Football club, that is a huge market. I saw even some top football team that they are doing something. And we are starting slowly, but we are starting because it's a little bit difficult to manage all the people that are in charge for this, president. There are different things that must be tuned in the right way. But we are starting, and I think very soon, within 1-2 months, we can announce something very unique, I think.
Okay.
Like I said to all supporters, will be one project that is unique.
Absolutely.
We will make a lot of people very happy, namely 60 million of them.
So, Irina, I mean, football is a very passionate game, if you understand the game, of course. And, you know, there are basically a lot of fans, basically, who are part of this ecosystem. There's usually a stadium, there are players who are transferred at times, you know, from one football club to another football club. There's a huge ecosystem, basically, whole behind it. So, out of a tokenizing kind of point of view, how do you see this basically as a value add?
So when it comes to football, the only football I support is Australian rules. Go Hawks. I'll get to you and I'll tokenize you as well eventually, if you let me. So if you look at a passionate thing like football, sports, basketball is huge. In other countries, like our Canadian colleague who's sitting behind the cameras and hiding, and for people with a Russian background, hockey is a huge game.
Absolutely.
I remember my dad taking me to hockey. That was, you know, most fond memories of my childhood.
It's too dangerous.
You have to be tough. That's right. You know, that's why the Canadians and Russians are the best when it comes to hockey.
We cannot be.
Sure. So if you look at that ecosystem, that's an ecosystem on its own, right? There's players, there's stakeholders, there are owners, there are fans, and some fans are so passionate they really want to have a say in how the where the club is moving. And tokenizing that ecosystem will provide every individual a voice. Let's say, do we get that player? Do we get this player? And also, there's also a possibility to move up younger players into the works, right? Discovering new talent. That's amazing. But also, why I like that? I like it from the social engineering point of view. For me, I'm a big fan of that. If I can incentivize you to do something, what the club wants, for example, behave yourself if your team has lost, and I can punish you, not me, but the tokenomics punishes you if you do something that the club doesn't want, like for example, you storm the field and the club is fined $10 million. I do not know what the fines are, I'm just imagining it. But imagine I incentivize all the fans behave in a way that is beneficial for the club, and for that you receive tokens for good behavior. And now with the tokens you receive, you can have dinner with Pelé. Would you take that opportunity?
Yes.
Or for example, each football player comes and sponsors a community of young kids, stay in school, play football, stay away from troubled behavior, especially kids from lower socioeconomic levels, boys and girls. We're talking about refugee camps. We're very unfortunate that in this part of the world there has been so much turmoil. We have the largest refugee crisis in the world right now, and every time you talk to managers of the refugee camps, they're asking for two things: iPads to keep kids educated, and footballs to keep kids engaged and out of trouble, boys and girls. So bicycles as well, they like, you know, so they can get around. So if you combine, let's say, take a football club out of Europe, take a football club out of Brazil, imagine they become ambassadors and sponsors of those kids. Wouldn't that make the place a better world? I think it would. From every angle how you look at it. The trick is to get it right, and the trick is to get everybody on board in a way, because there's lots of competing interests as well. So all those interests need to be taken into consideration, but I think we're getting there, and we'll have a great use case where hopefully we can replicate for other clubs, for other fans, for other communities. And think about not just the sports community, think about other communities. I live in a community in Dubai. Is there a great way to incentivize all the residents not to rubbish? I think there is. And we're sitting in Burj Khalifa. The owner of the building is Emaar, and they have announced a utility token for their communities. You can pay part of rent, you can pay part of electricity, and they have also announced that they're doing an STO, security token offering. We're yet to see how it will look like, but that's a great use case to incentivize communities to be a better community for each other's sake and for the sake of the communities next door to it.
All right. Thank you so much, Irina, for this explanation. Thank you, Roberto, for this interview. I wish you all the best, and I hope to see your journey as the growth continues.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Touch wood, and it was a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you.